Jeff Adams Show.
It's the Jeff Adams Show.
The Jeff Adams Show.
Live from Lakeland, Florida. It's the Jeff Adams Show.
You're listening to The Jeff Adams Show. The Jeff Adams Show is sponsored by...
The JA Creative phone lines are sponsored by Backbone Radio. Call in today at 818-927-6205.
Absolutely.
Booyah! Yeah, baby, yeah! Welcome to the Jeff Adams Show. I am your host, as always, Jeff Adams. Go figure that one out. That's a tough one to remember there. But I am the Jeff Adams here. You might be watching at the jeffadamsshow.tv in the chat room. There's people watching, but they choose not to chat. So hello to you guys. Feel free to chat if you want to say something. Sometimes that keeps me going when the chat's going. Also, we're live on jacreativenewmedia.com, streaming in full 1080. 1080! You can't beat it. I've got to hit all these places. Make sure you tune in and you support the adore.fm network. Lots of great shows on there as well that we're part of. It's fantastic. You might be listening on the live 365 streaming right now on the radio, or you might be listening over to our TuneIn app as well. And we're also streaming out to YouTube Live right now. Stream.me. And you stream right now at the Jeff Adams Show. So there's lots of places you can enjoy the show. Lots to choose from always. Also like to thank Backbone Radio, obviously, for giving us the phone lines to use and building our radio network, basically. It's fantastic. And you might be watching on Blab right now. There's not a whole lot of people in here on Blab, the Blabosphere. I'm going to lock this seat and Blab, make sure I don't get bum rushed by someone that wants to learn how to speak English. So lots to talk about. Lots of things going on. I got to tell you, truthfully, I did not want to do a show today. I did not want to do one. I don't have it in my best interest to do a show, but I have obligations that I need to do, and I just had to do it. So I don't have any special guests in the studio. I don't have anything planned, but I just based on Blab in itself, there's a lot of success talk on Blab, the entrepreneur mentality. And it's just, I just said, you know what? I want to do something where I talk about reality. Because, obviously I always want to encourage people to dream. That's always important. Never give up on your dreams. Never stop dreaming. But I think in life sometimes we have more failures than we do success. And what does that imply? I mean, how do you gauge that? I guess some people would be they would look at it in different ways. As, some people would look at it, for a work thing. Some people might make it even go, a little bit higher on that, on a family thing, relationships. And someone might take it to a whole different level that I'm not even aware of yet. But there's lots of failures in life. There's lots. No one has the gall to really talk about them. Because most of the time when you're going through something, people want to, pat you on the back and make you feel good. It's like, you're going to get through this, man. Pat on the back. You're doing all right. You're fantastic. Well, let's see. We got a phone call already, which is crazy. It's crazy around here. So let me remind you guys that you guys can call the phone lines at 818-927-6205. Always feel free to call in. If you're on Blab, I'm going to unlock the seat for questions a little bit later. But you can always call in 818-927-6205. So let's check in. And this guy is a legend. He calls in the show all the time. Very faithful listener. Hey, Matt Baxter, you're on the air. How's it going?
Good.
How you doing today?
Super.
You doing fantastic?
Yep.
Let me ask you a question, Matt. Have you ever had
Go ahead.
have you ever had failures in your life, Matt?
Oh, good grief, yes.
Would you say you had more failures in life than you had success?
Well, some failure, some success, and a little bit of both.
So what stands out as you, if you don't mind sharing to these fine people, what sticks out as the most, I should say, let me rephrase that, the worst experience of a failure you've ever had?
Oh, I got a big one right here. Okay. Prom night, right?
Yeah.
So I got this prom with this girl named Dorothy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm dressed to the gills as like 007, looking pretty good for that night. Everything goes fine for a while, but then after a while she calls me over, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, uh-oh, something's up. And I was right. She dumped me faster than a bag of potatoes, man. I mean, boom.
She took you.
Talk about.
Were you at the prom when that happened already?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, man, that's horrible. What did you do?
Oh, man, it was awful, man. I went home, and I just didn't want to talk to nobody or do nothing for the rest of that day.
Yeah, that always
It was
that always stinks when women are involved, especially when you're like a teenager and stuff. That stuff just used to like devastate me for a couple days. Rejection's always the worst, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's and that's what we base a lot of failure on. Is the root of it's a lot of rejection issues, which is the root of all failures, rejection. So Matt, I'm sorry you went through that, buddy. That's horrible. What are you doing today? You want me to put you on hold to listen to the show?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right, man. Thanks for your input. So that was a famous Matt Baxter right there, folks. So, Knight Rider says in Blab, he says the most important thing, learning where you went wrong and your fails and grow from there. That's true. But I think a lot of times in life let's break this down a little bit. Let's go from one side. Because I think it all can work together here. But let's go with, for me, here's priorities. And they range from a lot of different people because a lot of people don't have faith. They don't believe in a God, but I believe in a God. So here's my priority list. Number one is I believe in God. I try to keep God first. And, I don't do that well enough. Number two, which I'm being hard on myself. I know. So I'm getting to it. Number two is my family. My family is very important to me. Number three is obviously the work. Now, with those things, number three seems to get me a lot because I'm really, really extremely hard on myself, which causes a lot of grief, a lot of overthinking, and I don't know. I mean, I've always wanted people to accept me for who I am. And so I never really could separate, some people go, it's just business. It's just business. But I can never really separate business from relationships. You know what I mean? So when something goes on in business, I take it kind of personally, right? And that's just my flaw. But it wrecks me. It wrecks, it just destroys every fiber in my being when something goes wrong. But that's the thing. I see so much of people, you don't want to go into a dark, deep depression when you go through things or you reach failures in your life. I get that. But the problem I see is no one really discusses it in the manner where you need to move on. They only want to think about the frou-frou stuff in the clouds. They said, well, just don't stop dreaming. But what if your dream doesn't happen? What happens if your marriage that you've worked on for so long, it fails? What if you lose someone that you love? These are all things that we experience in life, but no one really clearly discusses them at all. And it's disheartening because so many people are going through stuff, but they want to cover it up. It's like the main thing. I've learned something over the years when someone asks me, hey, Jeff, how's it going? And what's the superficial answer that we give people? We say, hey, I'm doing good, man. In reality, you're not really doing good. So I've learned to say, it really depends. If it's someone I don't know that I don't want to, drop my stuff on, I say I'm doing good. Superficial answer. But normally if it's someone I know, I'm like, I'm not doing so good. And people are like, whoa. People don't want to necessarily hear that all the time. I'm not doing so good. They don't want to hear it. But the problem is we've got to start expressing that. It's okay to embrace failure in our lives. It's okay to embrace it and not necessarily hang on to it as much, because I think failures put scars on our body where we're left with bruises and remembrances of things that failed in our lives. And that's extremely tough because it's a reminder of, wow, I'll never forget that day. That day rocked my world. Oh, we have a caller. Let's go pop into this caller here. Hey, this is Chris. Good old RC Chris. What's going on, man?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Not bad. I'm doing good.
Yeah, you're doing good. The superficial answer. Well, for those that don't know, Chris used to help me produce the show here at the Jeff Adams Show, and he's doing bigger and better things now. So you called in obviously because of the topic, man. Do you agree with me about failures? Why people they discuss of dreaming big and they want to stay positive with the positive thinking, but what about when someone's going through something that put a bruise on their body? You there? Hang on. Someone else is calling at the same time.
I was diagnosed with PTSD. And
hey, well, start that over. Hard. We lost you for a minute. Start that over real quick. We lost you there for a minute.
My story. I have PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2011-ish.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, my ex-wife, filed a divorce on me. And for a whole 2 years, I was down. I was, what the hell am I supposed to do now? I had it all. And I lost my job. So right there is, 3 major life changes just in a matter of, I will say, in a 2.5-year time span.
Right.
It's a lot at that time, I was 22 to a 24-year-old kid, because you're still a kid. That is a lot. That is literally 3 major life changes. And when you at the moment, you're like, I just want to end it all, and I don't want to do anything. I just want to go in my room. But then you started thinking about, how can I turn this into the positive? How can I, as a veteran, as a father, how can I turn this around so that if somebody's out there experiencing the same thing, I can help? And
right.
When you do that, when you turn the perspective around, those battle wounds, a divorce, a loss of a job, a mental health that you no longer can control in a normal lifestyle like a normal person would, that has not experienced a traumatic event. That is when you sit back and watch, it's like there's a purpose behind everything. There's a purpose why I see everything as a purpose. There was a purpose why I went through all this stuff. And through all this stuff, I was able to connect with amazing people, starting with you. I connected with you because I wanted to escape the world. And here's a guy that was making me laugh. I'm like, hey, I like that. I want to laugh. I want to make others laugh. Let me join with him. And so when you do that, when you change your perspective, that's when you are no longer thinking of you. You think of others. And that is just, for me, was the best cure that I ever had. And like you said, religion plays an important part if you're that kind of person.
Right.
If you have that spiritual goal,
Yeah, that's what I still don't get. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I like to really talk to an atheist about this too. You know, how they deal with failure, because whether you believe in God or
Maybe
not.
here's the show.
Huh? What's that?
The show right there. Maybe there's the show right there. I could get you an atheist, and we could just talk all about it.
Yeah, but I mean that's the biggest thing, Chris. Is at least whether you believe in God or not. I believe there's a God. So when you go through things, at least you have hope. You have hope in that, like, hey, can you help me out here, big guy? I necessarily can't do this on my own, but that would be very interesting to get an atheist perspective of how they deal with failure.
Yeah, and then one thing too, I can't speak for atheists because I don't know, but this goes to any kind of religion, because atheism for me is a religion.
Right.
You might go into that religion of like the higher power. It's like I'm part of the Alcoholic Anonymous. You recognize there's a higher power. You're not saying that there's a God, but you recognize, hey, I'm not doing this by myself. I'm actually taking a psychology class right now, and that's one of the reasons I called.
Yeah.
Is because this is kind of like helping me out on my homework. So, but when it comes to stuff like that, and they played a clip of the movie The Matrix, the third one.
Yeah.
And this is the scene where Mr. Smith is asking Neo, so why do you do this? Why do you decide to fight? Why are you fighting for some freedom, for something like that? And Neo's response was, because I choose to.
Right.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
And when you choose to live life, again, you don't have to be a religious person. You can worship the sun, you can worship the earth. But once you realize is that you choose to keep going and you turn that negativity into a positive, dude, you could change the whole world. And my personal experience, I seen it in my life.
Yeah.
I seen it where I was like, I'm not going to choose to be that guy that says, you know what, the world hates me, I'm just going to go in a corner and drink some alcohol and do some drugs. No, I was like, how can I turn this around? How can I do this? I was able to meet you. I was able to do great things with you, and and I still see you as a friend, and things like that. And that's where having a fallback is the best thing to have. And by that I mean that that core person that that knows you personally, and when you have that set core values, and when you have a strong family connection. And I mean by that, I don't mean that you need to have a father and a mother,
right,
but I mean that you have to have, that connection with that person that you call a father or a mother. When you have those strong values and those kind of beliefs, it could shake you, but it shouldn't shake you at the same time. Right.
Well, Chris, man, thanks for calling in, man. We got to get together off the grid. It'd be fantastic. Be lots of catching up to do.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
no problem. No problem. And,
well, thanks for calling in, my brother.
Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Yeah.
Good old RC Chris used to help me produce the show here at the Jeff Adams Show. Brought some really good insight about it. What we're talking about today, if you just joined us, we're talking about failure. People over at the jeffadamsshow.tv, lots of viewers streaming on the Roku device right now. That's fantastic. But feel free. I mean, we got chat rooms. We got the phone lines. We're on Blab with the chat room. If you got something to say about failure, what's some of the worst experiences, and how do you overcome failure when it comes your way? It seems to me I've experienced a lot more failure than I have successes in business. I'm one of these, creative entrepreneur types, and it gets me in trouble sometimes because, when you take risk with your lives, you step out, you put yourself out there, and sometimes, folks, it's not the way you like it. It doesn't go down the way you planned it to go down. Oh, we got another phone call here. Let's take another phone call here. Hello, you're on the Jeff Adams Show.
Hello, Jeffrey. This is Bubba Bo Beard from Birmingham, Alabama. How are you today?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
I tell you one thing. This subject today ought to light the phones up.
It should light the phones up. But it's probably
what a
go ahead.
What a subject.
Yeah, it's a subject. Yeah, it's a pretty deep subject that no one really addresses very much. If you do, there has to be a quick turn of repentance or something of what people want to call like, hey, you need to turn it around, which is true. You don't need to stay in the past. But, what do you do? I mean, we do things in our life, and sometimes it inflicts, I was saying earlier, it inflicts scars, bruises on our arms and our legs. And there's always this memory of like, oh my gosh, that was just not a good point in my career or my marriage or my family life or whatever it might be. We all experience these things. And, for me, like I said, my number one stronghold is obviously I try to keep God first. Second is my family. Third is what I do in business. But for me, once again, for those joining us, is business gets in the way of everything else for me. It like collapses. So I've made a lot of mistakes. Bubba, do you have anything that you went through that you would like to share?
Well, yes. I mean, just last week I went to see my therapist.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and he said, "Oh no, not you again! You're depressing me." But I think, as you well know, we text back and forth this weekend, which I won't go into. Just some things going on.
Yeah.
But what I said, I think people need to be sincere with their friends,
right,
and keep the expectations to a level that you don't set somebody up to be embarrassed in case they do fail.
Well, let's stop right there. What do you let's stop right there. That's a good point. What do you expect out of your friendships? So let's break that down. So if do you expect out of your friends, if you're headed down the wrong road and you want your friends to say, "Hey dude, you're acting like an idiot right now. I don't really approve about what you're doing here. I think you're going to make a big mistake." Do you have those type of friendships in your life?
I really don't think I do, to be honest with you. I think that, I have family members. I have a couple brothers, or especially a couple sisters. They will tell me, my dad, bless his heart, and, God love him, who's passed on, he didn't hesitate to tell me, World War II veteran.
Yeah.
Tough guy. But I think what happens is a lot of times, and that has a lot to do with it, is how you grow up. I mean, if you've been around kids when they're adults or when they grow up, you can tell the ones who have been brought up to have self-esteem, pride, and things like that, as opposed to the ones who never had that family foundation.
Right.
And I think, and you know as well as I do, that a failure can come over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Or it can be instantaneous.
Right.
Like on stage, you can fail miserably.
And that's the best. That's the best to fail on stage.
Yeah. What's that, to fail on stage?
Yeah, it's the best.
Oh, it's. I mean, you feel totally, absolutely new to the world.
Yeah.
And you're the only person in the world who, even though but a lot of that has to do with before you choose to play too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If that's like if you're a conservative,
yeah,
you don't go talk to a bunch of liberals and try to convince them because they're not going to let you say anything.
Right.
But I know that
vice versa too.
In the past, you've talked. Yeah, and in like the sense that I get right now with you, I mean, just from conversation, you're still searching. So it's too soon to say that you really made it or failed.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's not with that. I mean, I think it's just circumstantial. I mean, I look at it as, my business is not, to be totally transparent, it's not going the way I want it to go right now. And it, for me, it's, I've made so many mistakes in the past with being a creative and just going for things. And it doesn't necessarily make you a failure, but you got to look at the mathematics of how you measure what a failure is. And that's just really it. I mean, when you really gauge for what it is, what measures up? Because most people say, well, I don't, let's say, I always talk about content. I make content. And how do you measure your successes? I mean, do you base it off numbers? How many people watch you? Or do you base it off a paycheck? Other people have standards of, what failure is for them. And it pokes and prides on them in different ways. And for me, it really adds up to when it affects my wallet. That's when you lose something, that's that's what it really comes down to for me is like when it affects your wallet, your well-being, of how you take care of your family. That's in regard to me like the dagger that I can't seem to shake in my life when something like that happens. It's very, very traumatic for me. And it puts me in this little, dark tailspin. But, I hit one, but I'm realizing to catch it first and say, you know what, this is going to be a bruise, but how can I grow from this experience and, achieve better? But I'm just, I make fun of it. I open up the seat on Blab. If someone wants to chime in, we're talking about failures today. And the phone lines are open up at 818-927-6205. I got Bo Beard, the famous comedian from Alabama, on the line. And I got Matt Baxter listening in still on hold. I love Matt Baxter. We had our RC Chris call in earlier. We're talking failure today. And sometimes it's hard to deal with, folks. It's very hard to deal with. But speaking of Blab here, there's a few people watching on Blab. There's 10 people in here. There's so much, hokey pokey in the cloud type scenario talk, and that's great. You need positive reinforcement. You need to take in positive vibes, positive words. You need that stuff. But in regards to you, also what we tend to do is we're too scared to be transparent with people, and that's when I go back to my point. Is like, hey, how you doing, folks? And your answer is, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. But really, clearly, you're not. You're not. When you're going through something. We just give the superficial answer because we don't want to talk about it. And that's why we pay so much friggin' money for these dang counselors. So much more money. And I think if you have good people in your life that can just really talk and they can listen without trying to fix you, I think it could save you a lot of money going to a counselor. Now, granted, some people need to be walked through with a counselor. I'm not saying, hey, go cancel your counselor, because counselors are great. I've had many of them in my life, and they've helped me go through things in my life and guided me and given me the encouragement that I needed to be successful. But it's tough. And I think the big reality of it is like, Bubba, you're a little bit older than I am, but when you get older, finding those people in your life outside your spouse or your girlfriend or whoever it is, as men, that's a big, big thing to try to find. It's really, really hard because, most of the time as men, what we think is like, I don't really have time for this. I mean, I got to go do this. I got to go do this. I got to go mow the lawn. I've got to go take care of this. I don't have time to listen to this guy. And that's how sometimes I perceive it. But really, if someone knocks on my door, I'm not going to close the door in their face. I've had many people come over and just spill the beans with me, and that's okay. That's what friendship's for. But you know what? When's enough is enough. When can you actually learn from your failures and be successful? And I know so many people, and maybe I'm one of those people. I'm pointing at myself when I say this. And when I say I know so many people, maybe I'm pointing to myself that I look at a certain situation and I look at my arm and it's full of bruises. And I look and I continue to look and I'm like, damn it, what am I doing wrong here? And I think a lot of my self-inflicted bruises, I've been very fortunate. I've been married to the same woman for a long time. So necessarily my family stuff is not bruised, but I can tell you about my creativity, my drive, my mind, of how I'm creative. Damn it, I've got a whole arm full of bruises of failure, and that's just it. My root of my insecurity comes from my creativity, and it causes me a lot of failure. It causes so much grief. It causes me not to sleep at night sometimes. It keeps me up. And I've always been the guy to just like throw it on the line. Let's see if it works. And taking risk. And when you have those moments when the carpet's like pulled from out the bottom, it hurts. It stings. You're like completely collapsed. It's not that someone hits you in the arm. Your whole well-being falls out from the bottom of you. It shakes you up to the core. And you say, damn it, you creativity. And then you want to start beating yourself up. You want to start beating yourself up and saying, man, how did I get here? But you know what? I've hit failures. I just hit a failure on Monday. But you know what? I'm not going to sit here and be paralyzed and be crippled about it. And I think the biggest therapy what you could possibly do is continue on, communicate, and say, I've learned from that one. It's time to move on. It's just about communication and keeping those lines of communication open. And that's what's important, is just keeping those lines of communication open. And getting into circles, I guess, in the marketing world, they call them tribes. Those are my tribes. It's my tribe. Well, you know what? Tribes can work in just the brotherhood, the sisterhood. Find some good people in your life and talk. Talk about it. Just talk about it. I mean, I'm telling you, it's good therapy. But you know what? To be a good listener, you have to listen. Because most of the times we want to play counselor. We want to play that counselor for our friend. Well, I told you not to do that. Or let me fix you real quick. Sometimes you need to be heard, right? Without someone trying to fix you, right? Because, when you're communicating and you're trying to fix it in your head, how can I make this right at the end of the day? You know what I mean? And that's what it really comes down to, is just that, is how do you learn from your failures? And I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't have the creative answer for that. I really don't. Because I know a lot of people that's been married 3 or 4 times. They look at it, let's take it off the business realm. Let's go to the relational. They keep making the same mistakes. They pick the wrong person over and over again. It's like they're addicted to it. They're addicted to wrong relationships. How do you get out of it? How do you break the cycle? You get to a point and say, well, shame on me. Shame on me. I never should have done this. But why do we do it to ourselves? And that's the way I look at it. I'm using that as an example for what I do in the creativity world. I look at it, I'm like, why did I do this? Why? Why did I do this? I don't understand why I did it. But you know what? I'm here. I decided to do it. I can't go back and erase things. It's sad, because no one's talking about it. People want to get on social media and gloat of their successes. But, you probably talk to some of these successful people. They have more failures than they do success. But yet, we still idolize that one success versus the hundreds of failures. Let me look at someone going on the chat here. The thejeffadamsshow.tv here. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Let's go to Blab. Yeah, if you don't, you're going to be stuck in a cycle. That's true. Yeah, the cycle kills you. It's like a recurrent cycle. It's the phrase of going back to your own vomit and deciding to have it for dinner. You know what I mean? And but that's the thing. I think there is so much to creativity and being an entrepreneur and being successful. I don't claim to be an entrepreneur. I guess I am because I'm a very creative person, but I don't claim and do shows off of being successful, because I think success starts with you as a person, what you claim what success is. Because what I might look to you that you think is successful, I may not think it's successful, right? Some people might look at me at what I'm doing and say, that guy's successful. Well, we can agree to disagree to some point. I think we all have different views of what we find what success is. But I think we all can agree what failure is and what it feels like, because we've all experienced it. And that's true. And Chad is saying, for a lot of people, change won't happen until you hit rock bottom. This is how it went for me. Yep. And Night Rider says, I love the honesty and transparency. You know what? That's what it's really about. When you gauge media, it's the same thing. You don't want they don't want the DJs talking. Hey, it's sunny outside. It's 82 degrees here in Florida, and it's a bright, beautiful day. And that's the beauty of this new technology that we all embrace right now. We all can be heard and acknowledged and share a story, share a life experience. If you follow, people watching the thejeffadamsshow.tv, and call in 818-927-6205. I'm watching the chat there, but someone's arguing right now, so that's good. And Blab, there's an open seat if you want to come in and chime in. I got a few more minutes here until the show closes out. But, when do you start to wise up? For me, I can say for creativity, I don't know if I can wise up, because it's just how I'm wired. You know how many times I've said to myself, I wish I wasn't wired this way. I wish I wasn't a creative dude that dreams up all these crazy ideas in my head of being successful. Because it's tough. I mean, my arm is so bruised right now of taking risk and trying them out. But I think we all have this little gambler inside of ourselves, if you're a creative, and we all roll the dice a little bit and see if it actually works out for us. Yeah, you feel free to come in. It's an open seat on Blab here. We got the Lounge Network. We'll see what he has to say. If I can click the thing right. There we go. We got the phone lines open to 818-927-6205. How's it going, man?
How's it going, Jeff? Thank you so much.
No problem.
For the show. It's a great topic, and it hits a chord with me as well.
Yeah. You want to get anything to share?
Most of my life was... Yeah, I'm sorry.
You got anything to share on the topic?
Until I had a car accident.
Oh, wow.
But in the process, I mean, you have tons of failures in life, and sometimes you get so amped up and you build yourself up thinking that you're going to succeed that you're not expecting that failure. So an example of that is when I was 25, there was an opportunity to basically do the 3D animated film, and somehow I came up with an idea, and a few days later, I got a contract by Sony for distribution. But they were only going to distribute. They weren't about to invest yet because they wanted to see the product.
Right.
And so I went ahead and I pursued the opportunity to create the product. Now, a 3D animated film, multi-million dollars and so on. So fortunately, working in the entertainment industry, I was able to contact and communicate with a lot of people. And to make a long story short, I was able to get up to $25 million in capital with a few contingencies. And one of the contingencies was a new studio was being built in New York to shoot films and stuff like that. And I was able to get an office there. So the contingency was if they do build those studios and I have a studio if I have my studio in there, I can then rejuvenate the money by also having clients on top of the film itself.
Right.
And so the studios are being built in the Brooklyn Navy Yards, and it had to be approved by the city. And again, the long story short, everything looked positive, and eventually the city just denied it. And you know, I had producers from the Rolling Stones and Madonna to do the music. I had a ton of people on board already, and everything just stopped. And I felt like I basically failed the whole team of people that I spent 3 years building. And you basically lose $25 million on top of that.
Right.
And it sucked. It was horrific. And at 25, it was like the biggest slap in the face. And I just stopped. I didn't even try again. There was no other way of trying to build that momentum again. And it was a horrible part of experience in life. And everything you're saying, everything you're describing, I'm like, wow, I remembered all those sensations and feelings, especially when you have to then go to your team that you just built up and say, look, it didn't happen. And yeah, I mean, and of course there's other things like relationships and stuff like that. Those then fail because they look at you as a failure,
right?
And all that type of stuff. So yeah, I mean, things can get done right. But ultimately though, I was able to shrug it off and then try and build another business, and that one succeeded. And so, everything that you're saying is on point. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, this is just another day in life. Sometimes you fail, sometimes you don't, and you keep on going. Yeah,
it's so true. It's so true that you keep on going, and that's the thing. It's like you never stop. Obviously, if you have a friend and you realize they want to go on American Idol and they don't have the voice, hopefully you'll tell them, hey, man, you've been down this road before. Maybe that's not the best idea to do that. And, I have those type of people in my life that say those things to me. And sometimes it's not necessarily what I want to hear. I think the biggest hurdle that I ever heard when I was doing music many years ago, I was actually behind the scenes, but I still moonlighted on the weekends because I still wanted to be an artist. But I worked in music management. I was at Sony 550 in New York. And there was a guy named David Massey who was head of A&R worldwide, and I took one of my songs in there, and he goes, "It's a hit," and it was like so surreal. He goes, "I got Duran Duran on the other line about to sign." I'm like, "This is great, man. I'm gonna make it as an artist, or they're gonna, take my songs to the next level." And it was like revelation. At the time, I was 32, and he said, "Hey, man," he goes, "Jeff, I can't do anything with you because you're 6'5". Look at you. You're not a woman. You don't have big, you don't have big boobs. I can't market you." So I could have sat there and said, you know what? I could have argued against the guy and said, you don't know what you're talking about. Or I could have said, this guy knows what he's talking about, and move on. And you know, and that's probably the best thing that I've ever heard from somebody. And it transformed my life the way I wanted to steer where my dreams were. It didn't mean that I wasn't going to be successful, but I said, you know, maybe it's not me to be an artist. Maybe it's not me to be on stage singing songs. Maybe I'm directing paths of other people that I represent and work with. It was a big game changer for me. It was a very, very big deal. And
now, how did you adjust? How did you adjust for that?
How do you adjust? I mean, you take it.
Well, how did you adjust?
How did I adjust? I continued on doing management. Was very successful at it. You know, and then I eventually left the company I was with and moved on and was successful with that. But then you hit another point. You hit another failure. I got really, really cocky as a manager. I said, I'm a great music manager. I'm going to start a record company. And I started a record company and fell right on my face pretty hard. It was pretty traumatic what happened there. So, you know, that's how you adjust. You go from one thing to the next and you kind of fall a little bit. But how do you adjust? But, you know, I've won lots of awards. I guess that's successful. But, you know, bottom line, when you try new things, it's like, you know, I left the industry 2 years ago. I'm trying new things with new media. And guess what? It's not what, you know, I planned it to be. It's very, very hard work. And you find yourself more on your face than you do actually with success. It's a whole new world.
Agreed.
It's a whole new world. And let me see something. The phone line's ringing here. All right. Hey, thanks for chiming in there. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
That was good. But yeah, I mean, literally, you fall hard. You know, what do you learn from this? What do you learn? What do you take? What do you take from this? What do you take from the moment when your whole world comes crashing in on you? What do you do from there? Where do you go? How do you do it? How do you maintain? How do you stay with the drive? If you're a creative person, how do you stay with that drive and that same passion without losing your mind? It's very, very, very difficult to stay the course and to stay positive. But you know what? If you have good friends in your life, if you have people around you that love you, they're going to embrace you and say, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay. And maybe what I had dreamed up for this company, maybe it's not supposed to happen the way I want it to happen. We've had some successes. We've had some failures. We've had some success. But maybe what I envisioned, and that's what I come to find out a lot, is like when you envision something, when it's based around creativity, it's not always what it seems. Because when we dream something up, we put something down on paper and go, this is it. This is my business plan. This is my dream. You look at it for what it is, and you say, I'm going to sit here in what we're doing. And one of the biggest struggles I've had to overcome is like with business in itself, because I'm a creative person. I was a CEO of a record company, and I failed at it. So when someone puts a CEO title attached to me, I don't want to be associated with that anymore. I go, I'm not a CEO, man. I'm not a CEO, because I had failure with that. You know, you base that. I mean, you look at the Republican, you know, race right now. They, you know, Trump and, you know, I can't remember her name. She was the CEO of HP, and they keep bringing up her, you know, being let go as a CEO. There's a lot of pressure. But you know what? When I dreamed of this company, I said, this is where I want to be. This is the game part. But I'm looking at it now and saying, well, maybe this is not where I need to be within this plan. And guess what? That's okay. I can accept that. You know, I can accept, you know, that world. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm relating to that as well. So I grew up, I went to school in Italy and learned sci-fi fantasy art.
Yeah.
And that's what I did as a career. I did paintings, and then I also coincidentally got involved with the entertainment industry and doing movie sets and that type of thing. So my dream was one thing, but that creativity permitted me to do other things.
Right.
So I wasn't able to predict that. I didn't know I'd end up doing entertainment industry stuff for 20 years.
Right.
Then I had that car accident I mentioned, and that was a big sign, because all these failures eventually, to me, is a big red flag saying, okay, it's time to do something else. the creativity stayed. Even now, I don't paint anymore, and I don't work in the entertainment industry anymore.
Right.
And that was about 15 years ago. And but I didn't take that failure, not failure, because I had a car accident. My back was hurt, and I had to stop painting. The last thing I did was an album cover for Jive Records in New York. The last movie I did was an Argentinian film shot in New York. And I ended up having to leave both careers at the same time. And I was like, okay, now what do I do with myself? Because I spent 20 years of my life doing that, and I wasn't prepared for anything else. And sometimes life will totally just stop everything you've ever done and known in its tracks.
Right.
But I still had my brain, and I still had my creativity, and I dreamt it. I believed in it, and I knew it was in my blood. So I ended up doing post-production work, something where I can sit down and not worry about my back.
Right.
Something that I could still think, oh, well, maybe if I angle it this way or that way. And used the fact that I am creative to then go into graphic design. So I worked in the clothing industry for a little while.
Yeah.
And ultimately worked at Good Morning America doing camera work.
Right.
And so basically, even though I was stuck and focused on one thing, and ultimately life changed, and I'm not going to call it a failure, just life.
Right.
And now I'm doing my online show using, again, what I feel is my creativity.
Right.
And my version of what I'm doing now is giving back, where I'm trying to help other creatives figure out how they can go forward into their creativity, whether it's music or film and that type of stuff.
Once again, once again, you can call on 818-927-6205 that are listening on the radio right now. Feel free to call in. I've got to get back to Bubba because Bubba was in the middle of a sentence. He had something to say. So, Bubba, you still there, Bubba?
Yes, sir. You can't stop this show now. You have got to go on.
Well, I've got to go on
till like 3 o'clock.
I've got it. No,
I'm
going to wrap it up in 13 minutes because of the radio feed. But you were saying your thoughts too, and I cut you off. I just remembered I saw you still on hold. I'm like, I interrupted Bubba when he was talking.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many thoughts as far as, you can, nothing hurts more than like when you're raising children and they take a path that you didn't. You feel like a failure when they chose a different path as a parent, and you will understand this in time.
Right.
And the other thing is, you were talking about creativity and what you do, and I know what you do and what you're capable of doing. You question yourself a lot, which bothers me personally as a friend.
Yeah.
Because I know what's there, but
right.
If it makes, and I'm so sick and tired of these cliches. Remember, there's somebody worse off than you are. At that point, that's not what people need to hear.
Right.
At the point of when you're downtrodden and you're really struggling inside, don't come up with cliches. Come up with something. Talk to people about them.
Yeah.
And listen.
Right.
Listen, I hear the pain in your voice, and you know that I've been through some stuff with my back and my knees. You know I've been, and what pisses me off more, what bothers me more than anything is and the distance. We met on Blog TV, right?
Yes, years ago.
And I met Jim Boothie on Blog TV.
Yeah.
And I recently met John Ward in Nashville. And what makes me feel like a failure is that, because of things right now, circumstances in my life, I would love for us to get together and do some stuff because we're all creative.
Right.
And like Yuri Shapashka, a director from Ukraine.
Yeah.
He gave up everything, came to Alabama to begin directing shows here, and then went on. You can watch some of his stuff online. It's Yuri. Ivan Goes Abroad. He thinks he's going to Birmingham, England, but he ends up in Birmingham, Alabama. Shock.
Nice.
But the thing about it is that he gave up everything, and he told me, he said, "Kevin, if I'm not creative, I don't feel alive."
That's true.
And
that's true.
I think we're all like that. I think if we're not creative, if you have that in you, regardless of what my career was before I got into the creativity of, and when you're smitten with that bug, it's there. It is there, and you're not going to be happy unless you're being creative. It's not if you don't have it, you miss it. And like I said, one thing, the biggest failure I feel about right now is wanting to do things with you,
Right.
wanting to do things with Jim Booth. I would love to get to know John Ward better because I think that we could do some really, really funny stuff. But I'm holding a lot of other people back because of my circumstances in my life. So, of course, I feel like a failure.
But you're not a failure.
And
man.
it hurts.
You're not a failure. You're not.
I mean,
you're not.
I know, but it hurts. You're not either, but you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
But it hurts that I'm not able to do those things.
I completely understand. You brought up some good points real quick, and I completely agree with you there. With it, I said something a couple weeks ago about this point. We end up when we hit these points when we're not creative, we're not building things with our hands or dreaming up these crazy ideas. I call it the dry drunk syndrome, where we as creatives we become miserable if we're not continuing dreaming big and building something with our hands or establishing our business to the next level. We become dry drunks. We become angry. It's just like if you know an alcoholic that's been sober for the last 30 days to a year. If they don't get over the next step, they're dry drunks. They're angry people because they still don't know how to deal with their anger inside of why they caused them to drink too many. So I call creatives, when we're not doing something, we become dry drunks. How do you deal with that anger? How do you deal with that anger when it's gone too far? When it's gone too far, when you're not creating. So the biggest therapy I tell people that like to dream big, to avoid failures in your life, is to constantly create. Even when you don't feel like creating, you need to create. Even in the darkest times of when you just fell straight on your face, you need to create. It's the bottom line. It's the only therapy you can possibly have. And we got 8 more minutes here. Let's take this other blab here. This is Chris Weeks.
Now, I just want to, if you don't mind me adding to what you just said.
Yeah.
There's their time you want to create, and you continue to create. Don't expect everybody to understand how you are as a person.
Right.
In other words, I'm surrounded by a lot of people. I moved to Atlanta, and the area in Atlanta that I'm in, I'm not surrounded by creative people. And so I might talk creativity, and they just look at me like, whatever.
Well, you probably need to get in the right circles in Atlanta, because Atlanta's a great creative place.
Don't have the expectation that you being creative and you talking about creativity, that people are going to reciprocate in terms of understanding how you feel and how you are as a person.
Right.
But still create, regardless of that.
Right.
What's going on, Chris?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
You got something to add about the failures in your life? How do you overcome failures, Chris?
Well, I think the important part that the way you
Hey, try to log back in. Try to log back in again. You've got a poor internet signal. You're breaking in and out. I say that for the rest of our listeners on the stream over here that's outside of Blab. So that's good points. It just sounds like your lounge network, you probably need to get in the right circles of Atlanta's a great place for creativity.
Well, I was surrounded by the circles. And now, I mean, you have to aggressively find the right, like you mentioned before, tribe or a group of friends or a group of people that are creative. For me, sometimes that is Blab. Sometimes seeing you, listening to you, for example, knowing that there's a relation of something you can relate to.
Right.
And understanding that you're not alone in this universe, feeling what you feel.
Right.
I'll let him speak.
Yeah, Chris, what's going on, man?
I'm good. Is that better?
Yeah, it's somewhat better. You're a little bit lagged, but we can hear you good. That's good.
Okay. Well, I think that it was important to, as you were just saying, the difference between having failures and being a failure.
Right.
Just like situationally, if a circumstance or doesn't work out, be it a job or be it a project or be it a company or what have you, if you have that neural spirit, being a creative or what have you, the fact that you never give up and you just keep going,
right, and
you realize that it is a situation and not you as a failure. If you're a failure, if you look at yourself as a failure, at some point you're going to give up. You're not going to continue to try and be creative. You're not going to try and build things, whether it's businesses, whether it's projects, whether it's whatever, a brand. you name it. And you go back, shit, I guess I'm at a point now where I just need to go find a job and be miserable. And once you do that, becoming, Bubba said, well, he feels his failure rubbing off on people and he's holding people back and he considers himself a failure. You're exactly right. He's not a failure. There may be some things that have happened that didn't work, but overall, you never surrender.
You can't. Hey, that's good, Chris. James, how's it going? You got something to add about this topic?
Yeah, failure, man. Happens all the time for me. For a couple of years, struggling to do anything and make any impact in the world. And I know, Jeff, that you've seen some of my stuff online, video-wise.
And it's excellent, by the way. Excellent, by the way.
Thanks, man. And I think we have to learn from it, right? Like taking a lesson from failure. And, we hear this all the time, the influences of everything turn around and say, hey, you need to learn from your failures. You need to learn from, they're not failures, they're lessons in life. And maybe that doesn't help the fact that you feel like absolute crap. You still got to, you look at it and you look at the failure and you go, man, I didn't do anything properly or that didn't work out for some reason. And I think, like how you respond to that emotion is really the way that you can improve in anything. If you acknowledge that you have, some of these feelings that aren't making you feel well, like how do I respond to that? How do I pick up from this particular thing? How do I get up off the floor? How do I, get back on the horse?
Right.
Man, that is how you should, how you respond to failure should be, that's like your determining factor. That is, that defines someone.
Right. That's good, James. And I don't think
sometimes you have to expect the failure. You can't just go forward thinking, well, we're going to win, we're going to win, we're going to win. That's
Exactly.
like every time all those people that play the lottery thinking that they're going to win the lottery. Understand that you probably are going to fail, but understand that you should prepare yourself to learn to why you failed, and next time you do it, you kind of learn how to maneuver around those things.
And acknowledging the signs of failure, right? Like
and sometimes even enjoying the failure.
Yeah,
and that makes it sound stupid. Sometimes you just have to enjoy the failure. I know it sounds weird or sounds horrible. There have been times when I failed and I'm like, okay, got it. At least I tried. Because it's the other angle is I didn't try, and it sucks. And I know I know I could have done it, but now if you did it and maybe you failed, the fact is you tried. And as long as you're not dying, as long as it's going to be a cause of death.
What's that, Bubba? Are you still there?
Are we live, Mike? Yeah, I can understand. Now, who is it from Atlanta?
The lounge.
Sorry,
Carlos.
Excuse me?
Carlos.
Oh, yes. I can understand that because, I live in Birmingham, Alabama, or north of Birmingham, Alabama, and, you're not going to always be understood as a creative person a lot of times where you do live. And that doesn't make me feel like a failure at all, but it also is frustrating when the people that you live around, the more conservative, less artistic, go to work, do their 9-to-5 thing. They don't quite get it when you have somebody who is, and then these are wonderful people. I love them, they really are. But a lot of times you have a difficult time relating to people when. And it doesn't make me necessarily feel like a failure as much as it's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. If you're in certain parts of Atlanta, I know what you're talking about. And there's other parts of Atlanta that you're accepted and you can be creative. I did a show over there in a certain part of Atlanta, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Same show here in Birmingham, and because of the, I don't know, conservative or what type of people that I was in front of, it was a total failure. But you learn these things. You learn your audiences.
Yeah, you do. And Bubba, I've got to wrap this thing up for the radio feed here. It's already 1:59, but hey, thanks.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for all that have called in today. Bubba Bo Beard,
buddy.
The great comedian from Alabama. It's been fantastic. I wish I could keep this thing going. I guess I could keep the blab going, but I've got to wrap it up for the radio feed. But great topic. Thanks for all that interacted today here on Blab. 64 people. The thejeffadamsshow.tv. We have, wow, there was 250 viewers on that channel as well. So thank you. The people in the chat room over there, thank you. Fantastic. Thanks for hanging out. And I will see you next week, same time, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on The Jeff Adams Show.